House of the Dragon, the highly anticipated prequel to HBO's mega hit Game of Thrones, is set to drop later this year, and excitement is starting to build pace. But like most big productions, the show is facing some problems, with one in particular standing head and shoulders above the rest. Today we're discussing House of the Dragon hitting a big problem, one which isn't really a secret at all. Stay tuned. First up, when exactly can we expect to see this one drop? Well, whilst Game of Thrones was still in its glorious heyday, producers were thinking ahead to what their next big project might be. And whilst there was a couple of big ideas being seriously considered, House of the Dragon won out, and will tell the story of the Targaryen dynasty, and it has been a long time in the making. The network first announced back in 2019 that they were developing a prequel show, but of course, we all know what happened at the back end of 2019 and into 2020 and 2021. And at the end of December 2020, the official Game of Thrones Twitter account made the announcement that dragons are coming by informing their eager fans that #House of the Dragon begins production in 2021. And it did begin production. The whole thing is now wrapped, and in March of this year, the announcement came that we can expect to see the show on August 21st, 2022. Of course, fans of the original will almost certainly tune in for this one, and we just hope that the production crew have done it justice. I mean, they have some pretty great names to work with, and we can't see it being anything other than a smash hit. What do you guys think? Let us know below. Next up, let's discuss this major problem. Stay with us. Well, first and foremost, fans will go into this one basically knowing what is going to happen, so it will lack the shock and awe factor we saw with Game of Thrones. On the other hand, however, they already have a ready-made fan base, so that should smooth out that problem quite easily. One of the biggest problems, which we have seen many times over when it comes to prequels, is that they sometimes struggle to chisel out their own identity. We all know that House of the Dragon takes place a couple hundred years before the events of the mother show, and thanks to the same characters in Game of Thrones never shutting up about the history of the clan Targaryen, we basically know how Targaryen civil war plays out. We also know that whatever goes down in this one eventually leads to Robert Baratheon's rebellion, and by proxy, the events of Game of Thrones. And given the fact that almost every fan of the original series knows the in and outs of House Targaryen, House of the Dragon will have its work cut out to provide the same shocking moments that the original show became synonymous with. Whilst there won't be many things that will be truly shocked by, this is still a Game of Thrones spin-off, and if there's anything the original taught us, it's to expect the unexpected. The Red Wedding, anyone? So who's in this one? Let's see. Well, who isn't really? Paddy Considine, who appeared in Peaky Blinders as Father John Hughes, will be stopping by as King Viserys I Targaryen, the 5th king of the 7 kingdoms, and is thought to be a thoroughly decent and fair king. His firstborn, Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen, will be played by Emma D'Arcy, a relative newcomer to television. Her uncle and opponent in the Civil War, Prince Daemon Targaryen, the heir presumptive, is an experienced dragon rider and will be played by Matt Smith, who played Prince Philip in The Crown. Welsh actor Rhys Ifans, who played the legendary drug dealer Howard Marks in Mr. Nice, will be playing Hand of the King, Sir Otto Hightower, and his daughter, Lady Alicent, who is an important part of the King's inner circle, is played by Olivia Cooke. Steve Toussaint is stopping by as the Sea Snake, Lord Corlys Velaryon, the most famous seafarer in all of Westeros, and his wife, Princess Rhaenys Velaryon, known as the Queen Who Never Was, after being passed over in favor of her cousin Viserys, will be played by English actress Eve Best. Rounding out the main cast is Sonoya Mizuno, who is playing Mysaria, a foreign dancer who is one of Daemon's allies. Of course, there will be a ton of other supporting actors stopping by to flesh out the cast, and we cannot wait to meet them all. Who are you guys most looking forward to seeing? Next up, George R.R. Martin has given his approval. Of course, Martin wrote the books the shows are both based off of, so his input is of the utmost importance. And recently, he has spoken glowingly about the spin-off, saying, "House of the Dragon? Glad you asked. I've now watched rough cuts of 9 of the 10 episodes, and I continue to be impressed. I cannot speak to the special effects, many of which are not in yet, but the look of it's great, and the acting, the directing, and writing are first rate. Lucky guy." He went on to say that he was impressed at how closely the showrunners have stuck to his own story, confining that it is my story, but he did concede there were some changes, but ultimately agreed with most of the choices Ryan Condal and the team of writers had made. He even modestly claimed that they had even made a few improvements, then going on to give the example of Shay from Game of Thrones, Tyrion's lover in the first season, who he claimed had become more nuanced thanks to the TV show, and his version of the character in the books was less rich. He also gave props to the star of the show, Paddy Considine, who he said gives the character a tragic majesty that my book Viserys never quite achieved. And all this is great to hear, as too many TV shows made from books absolutely butcher the adaptations. So we're delighted George has signed off on this one. What do you guys make of Martin's words? Let us know below. And what has the cast of the original show had to say about it? Well, not a lot if truth be told. Emilia Clarke, who of course plays one of the Targaryen clan herself in Queen Daenerys, has told fans she literally knows nothing about the show. She appeared on Jimmy Fallon just after the show was announced, and when asked about it, she said, "I genuinely don't know anything about it." I mean, you would think the showrunners would fill her in on her own family. She did concede that some of the other cast had discussed the show in their WhatsApp cast group, and she said, "Someone popped it on today and was like, look at that." We were like, "Oh," and that's pretty much it. Way to build the hype, Emilia. However, looking back, she could easily have been under orders not to say anything, right? We'd love to be a fly on the wall in that group, by the way. Do you guys think she really didn't know anything? House of the Dragon does have one big advantage over the original show. As we know, the show will detail the the Targaryen Civil War. But in the midst of all of this, we will see the real process of what an heir goes through that Game of Thrones tends to neglect. Rhaenyra will be shown from when she was a small child, right up until she's ready to take the Iron Throne for herself. We have never seen this before in the Game of Thrones universe, and she is known for a long time being Viserys' oldest that one day she should eventually ascend to the throne if she can leverage her position to beat Daemon down. Even the boy kings Joffrey and Tommen in Game of Thrones don't get out of their teenage years, so seeing a monarch being trained from a mere child to the time she one day sits on the throne as a fully grown adult should be an interesting subplot for fans of the show. Are you guys Team Daemon or Team Rhaenyra? You just know those hashtags are gonna trend when August rolls around, right? And finally, George R.R. Martin has responded to the toxic reaction to the Game of Thrones finale. Many people lamented the final episode of the original show and complained about wide-ranging things such as the battle scenes being too dark. I mean, he's called the Night King, not the Day King, right? But Martin has finally fired back at detractors, saying, I don't understand it, you know? Okay, you love a show. You love a character. What's the worst? It's either going to be a good show, or a bad show, or a mediocre show. Some episodes are good, some are bad. Why are people getting so crazy about it, you know? I don't understand how people can come to hate something so much that they once loved. If you don't like a show, don't watch it. How has everything become so toxic? He has a point. What did you make of the finale? As usual, thanks for dropping in today, and remember to join us again next time for some more fun and games. And why not do us a solid by liking and sharing today's video with your friends? Bye guys!